Hello guys, welcome to another stream. Certainly picked a hell of a day to do one. Having another rough day for crypto market, and seems a fairly rough day for sort of the tech stocks and some of the general market. Not quite sure it's sort of the bloodbath that some people are talking about. There's lots of sectors that are doing quite well. Does seem to be sort of the big tech stocks and sort of main NASDAQ stocks that are taking a bit of a hit. So yeah, seems like it's been coming for a while. Just keeping an eye on Tesla, seeing where it's going. See, it's back down under where I sold about 750. Sort of thinking that it may have a little rest, and it sort of went up to the sort of high 800s, and I thought fair enough, it's gone. But yeah, they've had a few issues, and sort of coupled with sort of just the rest of the general sell-off, and possibly a bit of the Bitcoin frenzy sort of sell-off, just everything's hitting them a little bit hard at the moment. So it's back under what I sold it at. But yeah, so yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments. Drop a comment in and ask whatever you want. Certainly keeping an eye on Bitcoin. Just checking the microphone's all fine. All seems good. Yeah, I think the sort of Bitcoin crash is getting a little bit overblown. I think people aren't sort of zooming out. I mean, if you even look at the month, we're sort of back to, say, 10 days ago. 10 days ago it was 46,000. It's now just under 46,000. So to be only back sort of 10 days, it's not the end of the world, really. Just think people need to calm down a little. We get this every time there's any sort of sizable drop. Certainly in 2017, maybe got me a little bit more nervous back then because you didn't know sort of what was coming, but it just seems to be playing out exactly the same as it did in 2017, sort of 2 or 3 steps forward, 1 step back. So unless this starts going to sort of 25, 35, 40%, I wouldn't be sort of at all concerned, really. I mean, at the moment, we're it's gone down to sort of 45. I think it did go a bit lower than that, or no, maybe 45.9 is about the bottom. So 45.9. Where it got to, I think it just touched 58,000. So you're just over 20%. Certainly nothing to sort of get too worried about. And we had the 42,000 to 26,000 little drop sort of earlier on, which was If I go to 3 months, yeah, I think sort of part through the day it got up to about 40,000 or so if I look at the weekly chart. Chart's not very good, to be honest, but yeah, it was after that. Yeah, so it come down to about 31. I think it went lower than that on most exchanges. Some it sort of wicked down to under 30. So that was a 20% plus drop. I think it went sort of some as far as 30% on some exchanges. So I had a 30% drop just last month. And obviously the high point of it was around the 40,000, and we're still at 46 only a month later. Hello guys. Hello John. Am I adding to my Bitcoin position? Not today. Kind of obviously held it for quite a while if you've seen any of my videos, so not really wanting to sort of to add too much at the moment. I think if I didn't have any, I would probably be adding some, but I'm sort of quite overexposed at the moment. The portfolio, I think even with today's drop, is probably about 60% crypto and 40% sort of stocks, gold, metals and everything. So 60% crypto is a little bit overexposed, so no, I wouldn't be adding at the moment. But yeah, if you've got say 5% or something allocated, then you could take, you know, the last couple of days drop as a time to maybe add a little bit more. Hattori, when will CCIV reach 60 again so that you can pull out your investment? I have seen this. I'm not all that keen on SPACs, to be honest. It's not really my cup of tea. It sort of seems to be the hot thing at the moment. But yeah, I've sort of been seeing where it's going. A lot of people on the forums are looking at it, and I see the merger's been done, so that is a reason for it to drop, I guess, because the certainty is now there. Before it's sort of speculation on what's going to happen. So now it's 38% down, but yeah, I'm afraid that one's up to you. I'm not really a growth stock man. Inkmatic, hello. You thought you'd buy in? You're buying into CCIV, or I guess they presumably just now going to call it Lucid Motors if the SPAC deal goes through. Don't blame you. Oh, if you've bought in the 50s or sort of high 50s, then I don't know really. This is the sort of SPAC game. Everyone seems to be sort of buying them, saying, you know, anything close to $10 is fine because they're always worth $10, and so the only way is up. Basically, I see people were buying the Virgin ones at VGAC. I expect it's gone up. No, it has taken a hit. So saw people sort of saying, you know, buy into this one when it was sort of $10, $11, unsure of, no idea of what it was going to merge into. Haven't really, well, it's going to be 23 and Me possibly. Haven't really followed it too much. Went up a little bit, 70%, obviously in a fairly short time, and now it's back down to 11.38, so where it was before Christmas. So you can see, there's things that I would far rather be in, which are also sort of safer bets. So yeah, it's not for me, the SPAC game. Oh, it is Lucid you got into, Inkmatic, one share at 35. I suppose if they are going to be a real sort of competitor, then maybe this is a dip. But I can't really see it, to be honest. I mean, if you guys have seen my videos, I'm a sort of a believer in maybe not all of the traditional car makers, but some of them sort of coming to compete with the EV side. I think sort of the whole idea that all of the traditional makers are going to go and the industry is going to be Tesla, NIO, Lucid, and some of the other Chinese ones, XPeng and that sort of thing. That's going to be the whole industry. I just think is a bit far-fetched, really. The traditional guys have got billions in profits to be sort of researching, electric cars. Some of them are already selling a hell of a lot. I know Nissan, they've only got the one, I think, at the moment, but it's selling a hell of a lot, sort of outselling NIO, as far as I'm aware, just with the Nissan Leaf. And yeah, some of the smaller guys like sort of XPeng and obviously Lucid Motors have never sold a car. You're buying hope. What does the future hold for Cardano as you're the crypto man? Oh yeah, I suppose I'm the crypto man. Kind of bullish still on Cardano. Obviously they're the sort of Ethereum competitor. Haven't really seen what's happened to them today. They seem to be holding up reasonably well. So they're a sort of Ethereum competitor, but they take a more slower approach. So they have this sort of peer-reviewed approach to making decisions. So it's a little bit slower than the sort of, the mob basically voting on it as sort of other coins do, with the sort of open source structure. Basically, they sort of take a little bit longer to get everything approved, but they think they will be sort of superior to Ethereum in the longer term. So take the price and everything off, you can see sort of compared to Bitcoin, they've been gaining value over the last month or two. So looking good on that front. And in terms of sort of price, you have to go down a little bit closer to that to see what's been happening on recent price action. But so 93 cents. So yeah, we were at 93 cents sort of on Friday. So they haven't really been hit by the pullback at all as of yet. So I think part of the reason of this is a hell of a lot of it is locked up in staking. So people can't sort of just whip it out and sell it immediately. Whether that's a good thing or not, you may get, people trying to sort of desperately get it out and sell it. But I think those people, if they're staking, they sort of want to hold for the longer term. So yeah, kind of bullish still on Cardano. I was sort of expecting to sell maybe a little bit more. I sort of said 80 pence. So we're sort of 64 pence now. It was at sort of 80 pence at the weekend, but kind of thinking let it run a little bit longer. So yeah, we'll see where we go. You bought 500 NIO? Blimey. That's bold. I suppose everything's taken a bit of a hit. Yeah. Holding for 10 years. I do see a lot of people saying, I don't mean to question your bet, but a lot of people sort of recently who've got in the last 6 months or a year or so, they're saying that they're long-term holders. They're going to hold for 10 years or even 5 years. And some people, it's sort of stock's taken a hard drop and they've sold out. So just sort of wonder, a lot of people do say they're long-term until something goes down. So it just does take patience if you want to hold these types of sort of speculative stocks that can go down. Inkmatic, what do I use to buy crypto? I haven't bought any in a little while, but I tend to sort of use Coinbase Pro. So you can check out, I did a little video on Coinbase Pro recently. They have a reasonable amount of coins, and then for the ones that they don't have, I tended to sort of just buy one of the coins that they do have and then exchange using something like Changely. I know you can get more coins on Binance, but I don't have a Binance account, and I would just sort of rather keep it to one exchange, basically, just in case there's any issues with the bank. I know some UK banks have been sort of rejecting crypto, so just sort of thought it'd be easier to keep it to, say, just Coinbase Pro if I'm selling, and just use the sort of exchange features on things like this. So you can buy Bitcoin, say, and if you want to go for Cardano, you just say, you send them 0.1 of a Bitcoin and they'll send you 5,000 Cardano, and you sort of input your Cardano address. You obviously get a Cardano wallet, and they'll send you 5,000 Cardano. Been using this for a couple of years now, seem perfectly fine. Never had an issue. I've exchanged sort of from Bitcoin, from Litecoin to sort of other smaller coins, and reverse back into either sort of Bitcoin or Litecoin to sell again on Coinbase Pro. So seem perfectly fine. There's other sort of ones like this, Shapeshift I used to use, but they started they were just wanting more and more photo IDs and passport and that sort of thing, and it just seemed a little bit of hassle. Changely sort of don't seem all that bothered about it, so I just use that account. Oh, you bought your 500 Neo when it was $20. It's a good buy then, I guess. So you're sort of 100% up on your money. What's the price today? Oh. $48. So yeah, it's a nice buy. It's just one that I would sort of be hesitant of. I mean, I think only in the last year or so they've nearly gone bust, and sort of whole Chinese government thing. I watched a video, don't know if you've seen him, from Sven Carlin, the sort of value investing with Sven Carlin channel, sort of highlighted the way that their sort of structure is set up. They sort of have this holding company of like Neo China, and you're sort of basically buying a contract to say that you own part of the company, but you're not buying the main company, sort of Neo Group, if you like. You're buying an offshoot as the ADR, sort of listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So obviously the Chinese government own part of the overall company, and I think it was saying, like, when they're issuing new shares, the Chinese government don't get diluted, whereas you probably would. So it just seems like they're trying to sort of use US money basically to help grow the company, and the Chinese will benefit in the long term. So it's worth watching, certainly. I know, obviously, if you've got that much invested, it's going to be a hard watch, but best to know sort of everything, even the bad. We like Binance for crypto as well, yeah. If you're with Binance, there's nothing against them. I just don't have an account. Apparently the fees are very, very good. I mean, my fees have come down on Coinbase Pro now because I've been sort of selling a reasonable bit in the last few months, so sort of gone over the threshold to get the slightly lower fees, but I think Binance fees are still lower than even what I'm paying at the moment. But as I say, I don't think you can put a price on sort of getting it out to the bank and everyone being happy. If you sort of save a small amount on fees and it gets rejected by the bank, then obviously you're sort of in a bit of a bad spot. I think I was going to look at some of the sort of volatility. Been sort of, people have been suggesting it's down to sort of Elon Musk's tweeting and that sort of thing. I sort of take it with a pinch of salt, really. I think now you're starting getting more institutional investors, like I saw Ruffer, sort of multi-billion-dollar investment management company, and they sort of put, I think it was 600 million into Bitcoin in November, and sort of read up on them. They seem quite well known for, as soon as they make a reasonable amount of money on something, they will cash out. They're not sort of hesitant to take a decent amount of profit. So so this was February the 3rd, they sold about 40% of their Bitcoin. So it was saying they still have 700 million left. But yeah, so I guess that would make it, they sold about 400, maybe 500 million of Bitcoin. So you're getting big firms now who won't just sort of buy it and hold it forever, hodl forever, as everyone says. They're, they will become big sellers if they make a lot of profit. So, yeah, I think you can certainly see these sort of big swings downwards, especially when something happens over the weekend. Obviously, you've had, a fair bit of sort of run up at the weekend, and the markets are shut. These sort of places generally, I guess, they'll be buying on sort of institutional exchanges that you've got, sort of Coinbase Prime and that sort of thing. I'm not sure whether these companies would use them, or some of them just have it through futures with CME and sort of these bigger players, and they all shut on Friday afternoon. And whatever happens over the weekend, as you can see here, then it sort of means nothing to them, and then they'll open up Monday, and if something big's happened, they may want to sell, and you get these huge sort of sell walls, basically. If they want to suddenly sell 400 million of Bitcoin, then there isn't 400 million of retail investors looking to buy. So yeah, you can see things like this, and I just think with these sort of companies getting in, when if the price does sort of go up longer term, if it gets to 100k, 200k, whatever people are sort of projecting for sort of end of this year or maybe next year, then obviously it'll take a hell of a lot of money to move the market then. But while we're sort of at somewhat of a low market cap, sort of probably just under $1 trillion now. So 850 billion now that it's come right down. Not even $1 trillion market cap. It can be sort of moved for relatively easily. Obviously, the full 850 billion isn't on the market. You've got sort of a huge amount of that lost, and people who will just not have theirs on the market. I think there's sort of estimate that maybe 3 million Bitcoin is sort of generally tradable of the 18 million circulating supply. Maybe 3 million of that is sort of trading around on exchanges. So yeah, if you get a big sell amount, then it can make a big difference. Dogecoin. Yeah, I'm still not sure what to do with my Dogecoin. Sitting at around, well, I haven't seen what it's been doing recently, but yeah, sort of round about 4 or 5 pence. Yeah, so it's taken a real hit, 4.4 cents. So just leave that and let it run for a little bit, I expect. So it's seen just take all the other stuff off. So yeah, down to sort of 3 pence. Can't sell this just now, so just see where it runs. But yeah, I'm not a big Dogecoin bull. It was just sort of bought at a cheap price, sort of middle of last year. You've invested in Cardano for the long run, just not sure, do you leave the coins as they are or deposit them? I guess you're talking about staking and that sort of thing. I haven't really got into staking. I tend to just hold mine in the wallet. You can sort of stake it if you like. You'd obviously have to sort of look into that for yourself. You can earn interest on it. I'm just a little bit wary of that sort of thing. I mean, I've sort of watched if you look up the sort of BitConnect days back in the day, then you're obviously sort of depositing your crypto somewhere else and you get an interest, a yield, but it all went wrong. And not saying staking is that, but I haven't found sort of a decent explanation of where the profit comes from. I mean, sort of seen some of these, yield farming type decentralized finance coins. Some of them are sort of yielding 50% a year. I just don't understand where that sort of money can come from outside of a sort of pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme type thing. So I'm a little bit wary of staking, to be honest. Water's Edge. Hello, Water's Edge. Thoughts on a market crash? I mean, I still think it's coming, but haven't seen too much of it at the moment. I still think if you get more stimulus from the US, they're still talking about whatever it is, $1.5 trillion stimulus package. I just think with low interest rates, you're just going to keep seeing this sort of money go into stocks, to be honest. The sort of bond market is obviously looking pretty poor for institutional investors. Bond market's bigger than the stock market. It's sort of, whatever it is, $85 trillion, $100 trillion. So that money, people don't want to be in bonds. The institutional investors, they may start moving more of it into stocks as much as they're allowed to. And yeah, I think the bubble can sort of go on longer than you would think. So I'm staying invested where I'm selling my crypto. The whole lot's going into stocks. Just think, best to sort of be in it best to be in it and have a hedge. Personally, I'm not big on cash, but if we do see a crash, hopefully I can sort of sell some of my hedge money and buy back some more stock at lower prices. But I think that's far better position to be in than sort of being largely out of stocks, and it does just keep running with the stimulus and more money printing basically. And you've also got the dollar index, or they sort of it's not so much the dollar index at the moment as it is just the pound appreciating. So if you want to be buying your US stocks, you're getting more for your money at the moment with the pound keep appreciating. Inkmatic, do you think the UK market is good value? Well, some of them have seen a rise today, haven't they? I do think a lot are fairly reasonable. I did see your video at the weekend with your Barrett Homes position. Bought some more of them this week. Seem fairly good value. The UK house builders. I also hold Taylor Wimpey, but I also hold Lennar in the US. So it seemed a reasonable value US house builder. So take the house builders. I'm not sure the UK is hugely undervalued compared to the rest, but certainly some stocks seem sort of particularly good value. I don't hold too many UK positions though, to be honest. So we'll look through my my ISA and my Trading 212 Invest account. I've got Aviva, I've got BHP and Rio Tinto, BT, a little bit of Diageo, and Kears and Legal & General. I think that's about it, really. Oh, and Shell. And then, obviously, my sort of large Sylvania Platinum position. Sort of regular viewers will know my thoughts on that. Still sort of bullish on them. Don't understand why it's sort of fairly low valued. But there you go. Been buying US stocks a lot lately, Hattori. Yeah, me too. Yeah, do like the US. Some of the US at the moment. I'm not really keen. I mean, I have a S&P 500 tracker on my watch list, but I haven't been buying any, so I don't own any at the moment. I've got a US small cap value index, just because it seems to be sort of better value at the moment, reasonable sort of price to earnings ratio. Not really that keen on the S&P 500, I think, still, because a large part of it, say 20%, is your Apple and Microsoft and Google and them, and I wouldn't be buying those individually, so if they're 20% of the index, I don't want to be investing in that. You love Aviva Inkmatic. Yeah, it does. Seems like it could be a slow grower, but I don't think there's that much potential for downside, so I'm with you. I go for them. Hello, James. Thoughts on index funds or owning shares in actual companies? I quite like both. I'm sort of still weighing up sort of how much I want to split between each, but certainly sort of say 50-50. I'm quite happy to have in index funds and individual stocks. That is a sort of the 50% in index funds would be a fairly diverse sort of set of index funds or ETFs. So if you've seen my sort of long-term ETF portfolio, I've sort of got emerging markets and Japan and sort of Europe various funds. So that'd be one to check out if you want a bit of inspiration. But yeah, certainly sort of good to benchmark yourself against your own stock picking. You can have some index funds just to see how they get on against your own. Star of your portfolio's Argo Blockchain. Well, yes. Yeah, I've been buying up them sort of a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it's taken a fair bit of a hit today. Down 20%. I think it's about sort of nearly 30% down from the top. So yeah, about 30%, maybe a little more from the top. It sort of did get to middle of the day, sort of about £3. Yeah, £3.10-ish. So yeah, it's taken a bit of a battering. But yeah, long term they should do well. I have been saying it everywhere, but other people are saying they think Argo is less risky than Bitcoin itself. Just can't see that. It's a miner. If you take miners in the precious metals world, the miner is basically leveraged to the price of the asset, so they're more sort of vulnerable to downsides, but gain more on the upside generally. So don't see why crypto miners would be any different, and it seems to play out that way. So your Argo blockchains have taken more of a hit than Bitcoin today, and your sort of Riot blockchain and the others, Marathon in America, have taken the same hit more than Bitcoin itself. So keep seeing sort of people saying it's less risk. I've seen all sorts of different reasons. You know, some people saying just because it's a stock, it's less risky. I mean, being a stock doesn't mean anything, basically. They're 100% of their revenue is tied to mining crypto. Yes, they don't mine just Bitcoin. They also mine Zcash, which I think it's number 50 on the market cap. So I wouldn't see that as sort of particularly diversification, one that I would want to hold. Yes, it's exactly number 50. So it's, as far as I'm aware, it's still a privacy coin. Yeah, not one that I would sort of want to buy myself. I think if you look at the long-term chart compared to Bitcoin, it's just been going down for sort of 2 or 3 years. So I guess they sell it, you know, fairly well as soon as they mine it. But if you had have sort of held on to it, then you're just going down and down in Bitcoin terms. So not something I would want to hold, and not something I particularly want them to mine, to be honest. Don't see that sort of provides diversification. But yeah, still bullish on them. So Seth, how many years have I been investing? Started the gold investments that you see on my Hargreaves Lansdowne portfolio. Didn't start with quite those, just those 2 funds. I was invested in some other stuff, but certainly the BlackRock ETF, gold ETF that was on there, was the first investment I made in March 2019, and sort of put that either side of the tax year, 20,000 in March and 20,000 in just after the tax year in sort of mid-April. I had sort of 40,000 in a mortgage offset account, basically offsetting sort of 2.7% interest on my mortgage, and thought I could get a better return. So yeah, kind of obviously started with a bit of a head start. I started with 40,000 cash, so put that in and went from there basically. And then the trading 212 ISA started April 2020, and here we are. You got in when Argo Blockchain was in the pence. Best decision you ever made. Well, yeah, I suppose that a lot of people sort of got in even a few months ago when it was crazy price. Lithium miners. Yeah, I sort of see a lot of people talking about lithium miners in the Paul Briscoe forum. Not 100% sure, sort of. I mean, you are betting on one sector, basically, the EVs, and just be wary of, you know, whether it will be lithium and nothing else, or whether a new technology would come about with a commodity that has sort of, as far as I'm aware, limited other use other than sort of batteries for mobile phones and sort of other rechargeable batteries. I guess it is used in a fair amount of things, but not one I'm in at the moment. I sort of prefer the sort of broader miners, people like Rio Tinto. They sort of do a bit of bit of copper, a bit of iron ore, a bit of this, bit of that. Thoughts on the Nasdaq 100? Not a lot, to be honest. It's not one that I'm keen on. Not something I would want to have an ETF on. It's obviously the main one. The Nasdaq type stocks were the ones in the dot-com bubble. I understand the sort of comparisons to that aren't quite the same, because the companies today are making a lot of profit, where a lot of the companies back in sort of dot-com bubble didn't even have any revenue. So it's a little bit unfair to sort of say we're in the dot-com bubble, but I just think a lot of them are sort of fairly overvalued, or sort of pricing in a hell of a lot of growth in the future, basically. And sort of a lot of the huge winners from the last couple of years, if you look back in history, are generally not particularly good performers for the next few years. You want to sort of find the smaller companies, basically, that are going to grow, and trying to sort of pick those out of the bad ones is not really my focus. Obviously, as I say, the sort of tech stocks, the FANG stocks, are about 20%, I think, 25% of the S&P 500. But if you look at the Nasdaq, I think the sort of Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, and Netflix, and maybe Microsoft as well, I think they're about 45%, maybe 50% nearly of the index. So probably if you lump Tesla in with that as well, it's 50% of your investment is in 5-6 companies. It's just a little bit too focused for me. And then you've sort of got 95 other sort of some of the ARK ETF type companies, your Rokus, and your sort of some of the gene editing ones are in there. Yeah, I'm sure it'll see sort of great growth, but I think could be better. Sort of maybe, it's hard to say waiting for a pullback, because there might just not be a pullback. But yeah, if there is a pullback, it might be something that I would invest in, but I'm not sort of sad to basically just let that one run, to be honest. How do I pick who to invest in? I tend to sort of look for, I'll look up companies in screeners and that sort of thing, FinViz, and sort of maybe look at top companies in various ETFs to sort of look into further. I'm sort of looking to be a sort of value dividend investor. Yeah, so I sometimes look up, say, dividend ETFs, and I'll sort of go through the holdings in there. If there's sort of companies you recognise, you may want to look into them further, and then sort of look up financials and sort of your analysis and that sort of thing. You take, I will sort of bring them up, but take someone like Lockheed Martin, sort of company that I'm fairly bullish on. So say $347 a share. So you can hit analysis. It sort of gives you what a lot of analysts are looking at. This is sort of quite focused on the US companies. They tend to have a lot more analysts sort of looking at them. And so say they're projecting this year's earnings per share to be about $26. So you can sort of take that into $347 a share. So gives you sort of forward PE of about 13 and a quarter, which is sort of fairly good. Quite like companies to be sort of under 15. Seems sort of reasonable value, unless they're a value trap, or a sort of dividend trap type company. You want to sort of look into whether they're growing as a business, reasonable balance sheet, and that sort of thing. Obviously, companies can just have very low share price, and then it'll look like a sort of very attractive forward PE. That sort of thing generally, when people say value trap, it's generally when a stock has crashed and people are looking at, say, the trailing PE. So last year's, and it's sort of just before when you had the COVID crash. Obviously, last year's earnings may be quite good, but the stock price has crashed. So if you use the trailing PE, then it'll look very low because you're comparing a low price against last year's good earnings, where then the analysts probably would be pricing in a lot of downside, so the forward PE would look reasonable again, or maybe even high. So yeah, I tend to use sort of forward PE as a reasonably important metric. The best investment I've had, Excite Energy and Angle C Mining. That is, that is sort of, I guess, low cap sort of commodity stocks. That's pretty good. My best stock investments, I think, still is First Majestic Silver. So I bought that. It was sort of one of the first stocks I bought in my trading 212 ISA, and it's sort of obviously done very well since then. It was hard not to buy anything in sort of March, April time and have it do well, but yeah, that's done particularly well. It sort of fluctuates quite heavily around, but I think it's about 150% up. So in 9 months, 11, 12 months, 10 months. What were we, February? Yeah, about 10 months. So that was probably the best stock investment that I've had. I've had a few small, larger ones in the ARK Invest pie that I've got, but they're only very small positions. But yeah, the best investment would be Bitcoin as a long-term investment, if you include non-stocks. What is my exit price for Bitcoin and Ethereum? I'm kind of averaging out of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm sort of wary of trying to pick the top. So I sort of set some price targets. I've sort of mentioned this before. I was looking at sort of $50,000. Maybe I've gone a little bit more. I was thinking sort of 50, 75 and 100 to sort of step my way out, but I kind of think I need a little bit more money than first thought, so being a little bit more patient and more bullish. So I'm going for sort of some at 50. I've just sold a little bit and probably wait until 60 to sell a little bit more, and then sort of start really getting going at 75 to 100, and sort of keep a reasonable amount back, maybe sort of thinking maybe half a Bitcoin just for sort of past 100k in case it goes absolutely mad. Yeah, and just to have a small part of it as my portfolio basically. And then Ethereum, sort of kind of thinking, I am sort of setting price targets, but it will generally be led by what's happening with Bitcoin, assuming that they all sort of follow a similar path. I expect the altcoins to sort of outperform. But yeah, so maybe sort of thinking, I can't remember the dollar prices of it. I was sort of thinking of Ethereum in pound terms, maybe sort of £2,000 Ethereum, start sort of selling a little bit more. But yeah, it'd probably be sort of led by the Bitcoin price, to be honest, and sort of the overall goal. My sort of overall goal is to get about £700,000 in terms of everything, and then it will sort of mostly go into dividend stocks. So to get about 700,000, I think I need sort of $75,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin and probably 2,000, sort of $2,500 to $3,000 Ethereum. But yeah, hopefully sort of leave a little bit on the side just to keep for the longer term. James, thoughts on CCIV? Yeah, this was asked a little bit earlier. I did sort of say I'm not really too into SPACs. Not something that I got on board. I did do a little bit. I bought a little bit of Arrival, CIIG. Made a bit of money on it. I think I made about 50-60% on it. Got a bit lightheaded at that point and just sold out. Started to ask myself why I was really holding it. Didn't really believe in this company Arrival. So I got out. But other than that, not really into what's the name, SPACs, to be honest. I see they've had a hell of a drop today. Seth, don't forget the tax on the crypto. Yeah, I know, that is part of the reason. Sort of, I'm thinking 700,000. Sort of part of that would be paying off the tax, to be honest. I mean, I was originally thinking if I had, say, 550-ish thousand all said and done after tax and everything, you know, that sort of give you on your sort of 3-4% rule dividend type thing. That would sort of give you about 20,000, which I think is a sort of reasonable amount to live on. If I would say have a part-time job as well, sort of gives you, if most of it was in an ISA, sort of gives you the equivalent of say £28,000 take-home salary, which is sort of reasonable amount to live on. I'm fairly humble, but yeah. So yeah, if I wanted 550, sort of thinking there's some other stuff I would want to buy as well. Maybe sort of move house, slightly more expensive house, and buy a car and that sort of thing, and then pay the tax on crypto and that sort of thing. So probably about 700,000 would do it, and sort of leave me with maybe 550-600,000. Not to be in my business. No, it's all right. It's all right. How did I make my money? Career-wise, I'm not sort of a huge earner. I wouldn't sort of say my salary, but let's say I'm not in the higher tax bracket. So generally, the bulk of the money has come from sort of just saving. As I say, I had about 40,000 cash sort of saved up from over a number of years. Sort of put that into gold stocks and sort of some other stocks, and then put another 20 in to trading 212, and I've sort of been adding to that. But most of the sort of the big part of my portfolio has come from holding crypto for a long while. So I first bought my Bitcoin in 2013. So obviously you can sort of look back and see the prices then. Sort of bought in quite a few at about $300. Sort of it was about £250. So I've just held it sort of mostly since then. Held it through the 2017 sort of bull run and 2018 crash. Sold out a little, but nowhere near enough. And yeah, obviously sort of now it's coming good again, but that's where the sort of bulk of the portfolios come from. Sort of a reasonable speculative investment back then, and just holding it for a while. So it does just show sort of properly long-term patience can pay off if you're in the right asset. Obviously, you can be patient with something bad forever, and it may never come good. But that was a speculative bet that sort of came good. Obviously, everyone says you wish you'd invested more in it back then, but yeah, I kind of think So I held it through the sort of 2013 bull run, and then it was down for a lot of 2014, 2015. I was sort of in the red and sort of considered selling it. Sort of it was down at the, I think, £180 level, and maybe if I'd had a lot more invested back then, I may have thought cut my losses and sell the whole lot, and then I wouldn't have had anything. So with it being a small amount, you sort of think it's not the end of the world if I lose it. I'll just hold on, and then it comes good. So there is something to be said for making a conservative investment and just holding it. Any updates on Sylvania Platinum special dividend? I think it has been announced. If you go to Dividend Max, I did find it today. I think it's 3.75 pence. Yeah, so classing it as a special dividend. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more than this, but obviously if they're paying out less of a dividend, it just means that they've got more cash, so they'll still be seen as a bullish investment. Having that much cash in the table, they may be looking to sort of reinvest it somewhere. Could be looking to acquire someone, sort of invest it in new operations and that sort of thing, which would just bring more revenue in. I can't believe they just want to hoard cash. So yeah, so it's a reasonable dividend. I think that's maybe part of the reason why I've seen a small drop, sort of 4 or 5 pence down. But yeah, so it's 3.75 pence. Ex-dividend date is in a week and a half, and paid on the 9th of April. So still got time if you want to sort of buy the dip. You're buying on a sort of 4 or 5 pence dip, and you would still get the special dividend. So seems a reasonable buy to me. I'm still holding the bulk of my, well, I haven't sold any at the moment. I said I would probably sell a quarter of the position at about £1.25. So I expect if it's not going to go above that before 4th of March, it may not do, then I'll get the entire position with that special dividend. So pretty happy with that, but I'll be holding the rest for a reasonable period because it still seems very good value. Are the fees on Coinbase Pro lower than Coinbase? Yes, a lot lower. I haven't checked the fees recently, but as far as I've used both platforms, the fees have been a lot lower. If you're, don't know whether you're sort of a larger investor, but if you do like up to $10,000 in a month, then it's 0.5% buying and selling fee. So yeah, it's not too bad. I think, and that's sort of no minimums, where I think regular Coinbase sort of has a higher fee in percentage than that, and also a sort of £3 or £4 minimum. So 0.5% with no minimum gives you quite a reasonable amount that you can do before you'll even hit £2 or £3. I've sold sort of reasonably large amounts and just paid £3. So yeah, you can sell sort of say £1,000, and even with the sort of highest fee of 0.5%, that would be £5 as a fee. So I don't know what that would. I have to look up what that would be on Coinbase regular, but I think it'd be more than £5. Trading 212 Pi. Yeah, it's not something that I've done. I do kind of think, like, if you create one, then they're not updated very often. So I would just sort of think I may forget to update it if my views change. I would say sort of, if you want my latest views, probably just watch whatever the latest update is on a Saturday, and yeah, you'll see sort of the whole portfolio. If you want to, I'm not saying copy me, of course. Obviously not financial advice, but if you want to sort of take some inspiration from my portfolio, then certainly give it a look, and yeah, you can look into any of the holdings from there, and see if you want to look into any of the companies further. But yeah, I think the pie maybe sort of may not be the best route. So a lot of people have been sort of asking my view on Argo Blockchain. Kind of sort of wondering what was the best way to analyse them, really. So they're at sort of 750 million market cap, I think it was. On the LSE, yeah, 765 million market cap. So saying they hold 501 Bitcoin at the end of January. It may have changed slightly since then, but sort of give you a rough idea. So they don't hold a huge amount of Bitcoin. So 500 Bitcoin at sort of £34,000. Yeah, so they hold 17 million in Bitcoin. It's not a huge amount. And they're mining, so they've mined 93 Bitcoin, or Bitcoin equivalent as they call it. So I guess that's what they mean when they're mining Zcash in January, and they did 96 in December. So take 95 Bitcoin, say, only rough figures, but so they're mining about 1140 a year if they stay at their current capacity, and the mining difficulty doesn't adjust all that much, which you can't say either will be true. I think they have been sort of issuing new shares to expand. I think they've been buying land for more expansion, and sort of buying a load of more cards. So they may do, more Bitcoin. If you said maybe 1,500 Bitcoin on the bullish side, that's sort of 34,000. So they're doing 51 million revenue, say, per year. I'm not sure whether the sort of revenue numbers that they put out quite tie up with that. But yeah, so 765 million market cap into sort of 50 million gives you a price to sales ratio of about 15. Maybe a little bit high, but a lot of the sort of tech stocks and that sort of thing are higher than this. So seems somewhat reasonable. I really can't get to the bottom of their actual mining cost. Obviously depends on their electricity cost. But yeah, if somebody wants to post what they actually sort of mine their Bitcoin at, then it would sort of help you work out how much profit they're going to be making going forward if they were to expand, and you can sort of get a forward price to earnings. I'm sure it may not be all that good, but just gives you an idea of where they are. So when I bought them, it was about sort of 250 million market cap, so it was giving you a forward price to sales of about 5, which I didn't think was too bad. That's why I bought in, and just nice to have some sort of Bitcoin, leveraged Bitcoin you could call it, as I say, with miners in the ISA, basically. So you get tax-free gains. Obviously I'm past the capital gains tax allowance. So yeah, any Bitcoin exposure in the ISA is all good. So it may mean that I could sell a little bit more Bitcoin than I was expecting, knowing that I've got the Bitcoin ETP and Argo Blockchain sort of in the ISA. So I could sell a little bit outside the ISA and yeah, know that I've got some in there as well. Where do I find myself in the next 5 years with my crypto investment? I'll be honest, I would expect it to be largely gone, hopefully in the next year, if it sort of comes to a reasonable price. As I say, I sort of hopefully, this may not be what everyone wants to hear, but if I need around about $100,000 Bitcoin to retire, then I would probably sell a fair amount of it and put it into sort of dividend paying stocks. So yeah, that's not to say that I'm bearish on it. I think potentially 100,000 could be a sort of a local top maybe. I wouldn't be particularly keen to be buying it if it goes to 100,000, but there's always that sort of possibility more money comes in, and maybe even if it has a pullback, then a lot of people are projecting it could go to 200,000-300,000. That's why I would sort of keep some on the side. I wouldn't sell all of it, but yeah, I would expect probably if we get to about 100,000, it will be largely gone. Thoughts on Immersion? Yeah, I do. It's sort of very small stake in my portfolio. It was just sort of I think it was a dividend. Sort of had a little bit of money left over from buying some stock, and I think I got a dividend. Sort of came to the whole lot. Free funds were about £30 or £40, so I just put that into Immersion. I haven't looked into them a huge deal, but as I understand it, they've got the contract for the PlayStation 5 controllers, so obviously if it's going to be a reasonable console, as it seems to be, then would expect them to do well, and maybe they can license it out. Yeah, so would say it is quite good. Anthony, hello. Argo more than doubling the hash rate by July. I have heard they're looking to expand. I see they're obviously issuing new shares. Cost per Bitcoin is 8,000. I have seen this. Yeah, so I mean, does that mean they are making 70-80% profit? It doesn't seem to show up in their sort of last year's figures. I mean, it's been higher than 8,000, and yeah, it doesn't seem to show up in their sort of gross profit, net profit, or anything. So I have seen the sort of 8,000 round about that figure thrown around, but I would have thought they would be singing it from the rooftops if they were mining it for 8,000 and selling it for, $50,000. Then you get everyone and his dog trying to invest in them, institutions and everything. 93 Bitcoin could be, yeah. So if they're mining, say 200 Bitcoin a month per month in July, then it would be a hell of an amount to mine. So for the year, say, if they were to do say 95 for the next sort of 5 months, or say 6 months to June, and then sort of say 1,200 for the rest of the year, so 1,700 Bitcoin. Say Bitcoin goes to £40,000 per year, so it's 70 million. So price to sales of about 10. Still reasonable, so I'd still hold it. But yeah, would be good. And then 2022 would be sort of, assuming no more expansion, say, 2.5 or 2,400 Bitcoin. So it's all better. Geo's in excess of 70%. Yeah, I mean, I can obviously see why they're going up. I would just expect them to be even more than that if they're making that much in sort of profit. It's gross profit of 70% then. So yeah, I suppose they have other costs. I wouldn't sort of count investment in, expansion and new cards and the sort of land they're looking to buy and that sort of thing as bad. Profit is still profit, however you wish to sort of spend it. But yeah, I'll have to look into them a bit more. I mean, not sure how much more I would really invest in them, to be honest. I don't want to hold it outside the ISA. And within the ISA, I'm not really looking to sell any other positions to invest in them specifically. Don't think I would really want to be adding all that much over £2, to be honest. I mean, I only sort of had a reasonably small position, and my average is, well, I only made the one purchase, so I think my price is about 90p. So yeah, sort of buying too much over £2, I wouldn't be all that keen on doing, even if they are going to go up. But yeah, we'll see. I've got that and the Bitcoin ETP. Obviously, you're taking the risk with someone like Argo of, the general risk with miners of difficulty spiking, other miners wanting to get on board, and difficulty spikes, and they're left with a huge load of cards that aren't particularly efficient. You've got the risk of sort of individual company risk. Obviously, you could have anything happen to them, fraud and sort of financial, issues. You could have something go wrong with their mine, get a load of cards, blow up, some issues with the mine, then you got a risk with them where just holding the Bitcoin itself, you may get less of a rise, but it's just a little bit more secure. Maybe if there was an ETF of miners, or you just put split your stake between a number of them, you may not get quite as much of a rise if Argo does better than the others, Riot and the others, but you're diversifying that risk of sort of individual companies' mine going wrong. Check out YouTube videos on Blonity. I'll have a look. But yes, as I say, it's not something I'd be looking to add to at the moment. Obviously, I'm sort of up 130, 140%. It was up 200% when it was sort of at the highs of £3 or so. So, yeah, unless it crashes right down, I don't think I would be adding to it. But not going to be selling anytime soon. Wondering if that would sort of be, I'd sell all my, or a large part of my Bitcoin outside the ISA before I sell Argo and the Bitcoin ETP. Just sort of try and get as much profit out of that as I can within the ISA, so it's tax free. Right. Well, I'll sort of hang around for a few more questions and maybe call it a night. It was 10p in December, I know, yeah. But it was just sort of, I wasn't really looking into them too much at that point. I was quite happy with my my crypto position. As I say, as I've sort of sold out of, been selling out of a reasonable amount over the last few months, it's decreased, but I was at sort of 60-70% crypto, so if I'm then adding significant amount of more crypto exposure, then it's just getting a bit too much. I'm sort of minded that could be a reasonable pullback in the market in general. So if I was sort of 80% crypto, say, obviously you could take a big hit if there's a significant crash in the stock market in general. I think you'll see a hell of a crash in Bitcoin. People want to sell just to sort of pay off margin calls and that sort of thing. I know obviously in the March sell-off last year you had Bitcoin fall about 50%. I think partly because it was just seen as sort of very liquid, very easy to sell, very easy to realise money very quickly, maybe even easier than gold. So yeah, and people were just looking for risk off basically, so getting into bonds and gold, sort of following the very quick sell-off in gold. Yeah, you had a pullback in, or a very quick rebound after the drop in Bitcoin, but yeah, it dropped 50%, so, or even more than that, I think, sort of 60 plus percent. So yeah, don't really want to see my total portfolio drop by anywhere near that much. So, and obviously if Bitcoin were to drop 50%, then dread to think what Argo and Riot Blockchain and people like that would be. So yeah, we'll see. So just have a quick look and see where some of the other coins are at. So 34,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, it's around about 34,000. Fine. Sort of 20% drop or so. Less than we got last month. Ethereum 1,088. Still been lagging behind sort of everything else. Good over the last year, but yeah, the last few months has been sort of a bit slow going. Haven't seen the Ripple news. I think they were having their SEC pre-trial. Have to look up and see what the news is. Litecoin's come off a little. Somehow Dogecoin's still at 15. Yeah, so I'm not, if anyone's sort of seen my portfolio, I'm not really in a lot of the newer coins, because it is a sort of 5-year-old for most of the altcoins, at least a sort of 4 or 5-year-old portfolio. So I've never really I bought into things like Cardano and Tron and that sort of thing in like 2018, and haven't really bought a great deal since 2019, to be honest. So I'm not really in Polkadot and Chainlink and Uniswap and that sort of thing. Not in any of the DeFi coins. So yeah, maybe missing out a little bit on that, but obviously seen things like Polkadot run up a hell of a lot over the last few months, and yeah, just didn't want to buy into it. Happy to let that one go. Binance coin as well. Yeah, Binance coin was a hell of a lot higher than that. See, they've gone third. Or fourth rather, overtaken by Tether. There you go. Oh, am I still hoping to increase my position in Reits? Yeah, the Reits are still a difficult one. As I say, I only really want to hold them in the ISA, so I sort of need to be either selling out of something like Sylvania Platinum or some of the gold miners, or I'm still waiting on moving my Hargreaves Lansdowne ISA into trading 212 once they allow it. They allow cash transfers at the moment, but don't want to be selling into cash and then waiting 6 weeks for them to transfer it over. Might be quicker than that, but yeah, I wouldn't want to be, have sort of 50, 60,000 in cash for 6 weeks. Anything could happen. So until that happens, I can't really buy that much more in Reits. Hopefully soon though, if we start getting a reasonable move in the gold market, could be sort of springtime starts to move, then I might start selling out of more of the gold positions, and probably the first thing that would go into in the ISA is Reits. Cosmos been doing okay against Binance Coin. Yeah, Cosmos is another one I sort of haven't paid particularly close attention to. It's up there, number 18. Seen some people sort of talking about it, but yeah, that one's passed me by. Same with sort of Arve, one of the newer ones. Seen some of these others not really into. Very nearly bought VeChain. That's done quite well. I think that was sort of 0.15 pence. I think it's now 2.8 pence. So yeah, could have done 15x on that since last year, but win some, you lose some. I think Cardano has done sort of similar gain, to be honest. So yeah, I can't remember what I put it into at the time. I was looking to put sort of £200 or £300 into one of the smaller coins. I may have put it into Cardano at the time, so no worse off. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, I will probably leave it there. So thanks for coming on tonight, guys. Always nice to talk, and yeah, we'll see how this dip goes in the next few days. Could be, if there's anything like the last few weeks, could end up positive by the end of the week. Seems to be sort of buy the weekend, or sell the weekend and buy the start of the week. But yeah, we'll see where we go. So I shall see you guys later.